Good evening, Ritesh. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am sure that a lot of our viewers, the audience of this interview, is going to have a lot of fun listening to some of your learning, some of your experiences, and perhaps will be able to walk away as wiser professionals, digital transformation professionals. So welcome again, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. For
Thanks, Siddharth.
for those who don't know Ritesh so well, he is the author of Sales HR Strategy, which is currently available across all major e-commerce stores. And he is a global HR leader working with a well-known FMCG brand with over a decade plus experience, and personally a very dear friend of mine, which I've known him from a very long time. So once again, thank you so much, Ritesh. But before we can actually get to the interview, would like to hear a little bit about yourself, something fun, something a little more personal about yourself. What do you like doing, and how do you keep yourself so motivated every single day?
Sure. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks for having me here. It's a great platform to interact with you and interact with some of my friends who are keen on the digital transformation journey. A quick introduction about myself. Like you mentioned, I am a global HR professional working with a well-known FMCG company. I had recently completed 10 years with the company that I had worked in, and I joined that company as a management trainee and then did frontline roles in HR, working with the sales team, and then spend around 5 years working in different factories as the factory HR head. I then had opportunities of taking over as the learning and development professional focused towards the sales team, and I got opportunity of working across India as a starting point, and then I worked across multiple markets. Right now, I am based out of Bangkok, and I take care of learning and development for sales for 14 to 16 countries based out of Thailand. Uh, so that's about me. And in terms of what keeps me motivated, well, I think every day it's a new day. You get to learn something new. I think my motivation comes from the fact that I am, I get inspired by learning new stuff. So I keep on exploring, I keep on reading, I keep on talking to people, and that's how that's what motivates me a lot.
Oh, wonderful, Ritesh. Lots of multicultural experience under your belt, and I'm sure that once again, I'm sure that a lot of the viewers would benefit immensely from all your learnings and insights. So thank you so much, and we can, if you permit me, we can start right off with the first question.
Sure.
So Ritesh, when we talk to digital, when we talk about digital transformation to different people seem to give uh, completely different opinion about digital transformation. Some say that it is the implementation of some technology, whether it's AI or blockchain or all the buzzwords that are doing the rounds. Others say it is a much more strategic endeavor. So I mean, taking a step back, and before we can actually talk a little more and get in depth about digital transformation, what, in your opinion, you think is digital transformation, and why is it important for organizations today to perhaps digitally transform themselves?
Very good question, Siddharth. See, I will like to first talk about the core needs of humans, right? And while we have a lot of management theories around it, but one of the fundamental theory is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where he talks about how humans evolved and what are the core needs that humans have. It, amongst one of them, the core need to connect with each other is very important, right? And I will be talking more about it, and I would want to share how humans developed over a period of time. See, first thing is humans need to connect to each other, right? And possibly they need to connect to share information. They need to connect to ask for favors or request someone to take action on something. And third thing, the most important thing is humans need to connect with each other to share emotions, right? And these are the three important things why people connect to each other. Now, if we see the history of mankind, people, when human beings first got that cognitive ability, at that point in time, this connect or this meeting used to happen always in person, right? And that's where people realize that if they stay together, the life will be a little bit more easier. That's how the entire concept of villages or community came in, right? People started staying together, they started growing crops, hunting together. The entire concept of village and community came from there. And that's how, over the period, villages evolved into cities. And then there was an era where people started communicating to each other using other means except for apart from in-person meetings. So the concept of radio had come in, which was one-way interaction, where at least you don't know who is speaking, where he is speaking from, but at least you can hear from him, and that's how people got to know about news. They got to listen to music and all that. After radio, telephone came in, and that's where people started two-way communication. After telephone, of course, mobile came in, internet came in, broadband came in, and now we are on the cusp of another revolution, which is the 5G revolution, where internet speeds will be extremely high and things can be done real time. So if you see, this is how the history of mankind has been, and this is what right from working, right from staying with each other and interacting with each other in person, we have evolved to talking over the internet, interacting over Zoom calls, and I'm sure this will undergo much more evolution when virtual reality comes in. So this is what happened, and if you see, this is nothing but this is how the environment changed, right? And when we talk about digital transformation, the environment around us changed quite quickly. For organizations these days, it is not the survival of the fittest. In my view, it is survival of the agile. And when we talk about agility, the concept of environment becomes even more important. So if outside the environment has adopted digital, whether we talk about the social media platforms, whether we talk about Facebooks or Twitters of the world, we can see that even outside the work life, people are connecting to each other digitally. So if this is happening outside the environment, it cannot happen that the organization remains immune to it. And that's where I think digital transformation is a must. Organizations who are nimble and agile and adopt digital transformation, their right to succeed improves over those companies which are still adopting to such changes. So that's my thought around this question.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ritesh. I think I couldn't agree more that no wonder that digital transformation is such a rage across corporate boardrooms and all strategy meetings. And I loved what you said about survival of the agile. I think I'm sure that it'll ring a sync with a lot of people who are struggling to go digital with any of their systems or processes, whatever the case might be. Now, moving on, Ritesh, I think. I'd love to draw your attention uh, to something which is very prevalent. Uh, a lot of companies, invest large sums of money, huge amount of resources into trying to go digital. They have the choicest and the fanciest of technologies coming in, expensive core systems, third party applications. They hire the most reputed consultants around the world to help them go digital. And and unfortunately, reports say that almost 70 to 80%, digital transformation initiatives don't really make the cut, don't really go as per expectations. And this, of course, is a very challenging proposition for any business leader who is looking at a P&L approach to managing his business. What do you think, Ritesh, in your opinion, are some of the biggest challenges for companies to go digital? And if I may ask, how do you think those challenges could be overcome? So please feel free to drop in any point which you think might be relevant.
Great question. I think this is the most relevant question which anyone will want to know, but at the same time, it's very difficult to answer. See, what happens is depending on the situation and depending on the circumstances, companies can face several challenges, right? Now, in my opinion, there are two big challenges which are there in terms of digital transformation. The very first thing is the design part of it, right? So if you have identified a need and if you think that yes, we need to undergo digital transformation in that particular area to address that need, first thing is the design part of it, right? And I'll just give you a an example of what we mean by design. I mean, we all know that Google as a search engine is one of the most popular search engines across. And if we compare this particular search engine with any other search engine, I think the key aspects of design of Google is the fact that it's very, very simple. And I think the first reason why many of the digital transformation fails is because of the fact that the design is very complicated, right? People want to put in too many features and they want people to learn about those features and start using it. That doesn't happen, right? So first thing is if we look at design, it needs to be very, very simple. Second important thing is when the design is being made, we need to incorporate users' feedback and users' perspective. And this is where again many of the design they fail. A lot of times people are adaptive to those designs which adds incremental difficulty or incremental ease to what they are currently doing. But if you don't look at an incremental thing versus that if you move to a gigantic change, I think that's where most of the designs fail. Other important thing is any such digital transformation, it should reduce the work of the people, right? In organizations, my experience has been that a lot of times we don't consider the reduction of work as one of the important KPIs or one of the important aspects of digital transformation. We always add more work. And if you add more work, the time which any employee spends in an organization is always limited, right? Hence, the first thing which I feel that why digital transformation fail, or any such initiatives they fail, because the design is not proper, right? Associated with this point is the fact that the product is faulty. So if the product is faulty and it doesn't serve the need which you or your organization want, then definitely the entire digital transformation is going to fail. Second important thing, and this is where I feel as a human resource professional, I feel this is where most of the digital transformations they fail, is because of the fact that they are not able to drive the behavior change of the users. So if the behaviors don't change, then adoption of technology becomes a challenge. So howsoever you can make the design, but if the behaviors don't change, it will always be a big impediment to the digital transformation initiatives. Now there are four things we need to consider while talking about changing behaviors. First thing is what we say that when you cross the bridge, you need to burn the bridge, right? And that's what some of my experiences, some of in some of the real life situations, it doesn't happen. And let me give you an example. Lot of companies they want to move from a manual attendance to an automated attendance, right? What I'm speaking is not something new. Many of the companies they suffer a lot, especially when they have a lot of employees of different categories, maybe contract employees, maybe staff, maybe workmen. So they struggle in getting the automated attendance system running up and running. The main reason why that happens is they keep the parallel system of manual attendance on. So if you are running two parallel systems, the first one being manual attendance, which people are habituated over the last so many years, and then suddenly you introduce a digital system or an automated system, either of a RFID card or a fingerprint sensor. If you don't remove the manual things, people say that the new initiative is just to add more work, right? The moment you say that we are going to switch off the manual systems after a certain cutoff date and we are going to move 100% to digital attendance, that's where people realize that the company is burning the bridges after crossing it. And that's what I think is the most important aspect of behavior change. Second thing, and this is what we see around us, is about social acceptance. And again, let me give you an example. See, being in Thailand, I see that even before we had COVID, people here, they used to wear masks, right? And when COVID struck the world, and Thailand was amongst the first few countries to report the cases outside the uh, epicenter, you will not believe, but 100% of the people started wearing masks. Now, when you see social acceptance around you, when you see other people around you doing the thing, and in terms of digital transformation, when you see adoption of technology by people around you, you yourself become, quite cognizant to the fact that you need to adopt it. And if you don't adopt it, there is a social pressure, right? So this is the second change, second thing about behavior change. Third thing is about incentives and punishments, right? A lot of companies, they have some plans around incentives and punishments, but it's very important that they need to stick to it. So whenever we are designing digital transformation, we need to talk about incentives. And that's where, again, I would like to relate my previous point, that people should understand that the digital transformation is reducing their work. If it is not reducing their work, if it is adding to their work, then what other things can get reduced in the given amount of time? And that's the question which many of us fail to answer. And that's where the digital transformations fail. And the final point, which is the fourth point, is about the support and the training part. A lot of times we install new softwares, we add new hardwares, but we see that those softwares and hardwares, the troubleshooting is not done properly. If the troubleshooting is not done properly, and if a global system is applied and it is expected that the local system will do a major change in their behavior to adopt to the global system, that is not going to happen. So it's important that we provide sufficient support in terms of both the software as the hardware and the hardware support, as well as the training support, if we want to drive the behavior change. To summarize, two big challenges. The first one is the design aspect, and the second one is the behavior change aspect.
Wonderful, wonderful, Ritesh. Thank you so much for that detailed answer. And lovely points you touched on support and training, customer or user experience. I think all very, very valid points. And I think definitely are major impediments to you know any adoption of any digital transformation initiative as such. So thank you so much for that. Moving on, Ritesh. Over the last maybe a decade or maybe a little more than a decade or so, maybe 15 years or so, digital transformation, like we all discussed, has become such a huge thing. Companies have started exploring new business models. Traditional companies have started looking at e-commerce or selling online or whatever it is. Things that were unheard of completely, and now there is a completely new wave of a new technology is coming in and trying to improve the customer experience further. So what do you think are some of the key drivers that are driving this change? Because like you mentioned rightly, that human beings have been trying to connect for such a long time, but it is in this really the last 20 years or 15 years that such a massive amount of change has happened. So what is driving that change? Or if I may put it better, what are some of the key drivers of digital transformation?
See, I think the first key driver for digital transformation is always the belief of the leadership team of any company, right? And this is where I think a lot of companies, they are in different phases of digital transformation, right? Like I mentioned before, the environment around us is changing rapidly, right? And even the behavior of people outside work is changing rapidly, right? These days we see a lot of jokes around, encouraging our children to go out there and play football or cricket, right? Versus sitting on the mobile and playing games on the mobile, right? So these are not jokes. This is the actual behavior change we are seeing all around us. So I think the very first driver for the change is what the leadership team believes. If the leadership team publicly acknowledges and publicly displays the behavior of adopting digital transformation, I think that itself sends a very big message to everyone in the organization, right? So very first driver is about, the sponsorship from the leadership team. Second thing is about change management, right? Organizations, they keep on undergoing several changes, right? It could be the changes as far as business is concerned, changes as far as processes are concerned. All these changes keep on happening. All these transformations, they keep on happening to organizations at different points in time. Now, the very important transformation which we are seeing now, especially after COVID, is the entire way of working around leveraging the digital means of connecting to each other, right? While even because of COVID, I think the speed of adoption of digital transformation has really increased a lot, and that's where I would like to connect to this point on the fact that we need to burn the bridges after crossing it, right? Due to this pandemic, there is no other option. But if we want to continue with our business, but we need to ensure that each of us connect to each other as well as customers through digital means, because we cannot go in person and meet them, right? So that's I think that's the other big thing which is a big driver for change, that this particular situation is not allowing us to revert to old behaviors or asking us to go back to the place where we started. Third thing is again about social behaviors, right? YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We see these are very common names across all generations these days, right? And these mediums have become the way people are expressing themselves. Now, an aspiring actor need not wait for an opportunity to work with a producer or a director to make a big film. If he can dance well, if he can act well, you can see a lot of YouTube stars coming in on a daily basis. We can see a lot of videos becoming viral. So this, I think, is the third thing, which is about the social behaviors, right? The social behaviors around us are changing, and that again is a key driver for digital transformation. To summarize, three things: one, the leadership thought or the sponsorship from the top. Second is about the fact that we need to burn the bridge after crossing it. There should not be any other option but to adopt to the digital transformation. And the third is about the social behaviors that we see outside work.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think very, very aptly put. Some of the key drivers for digital transformation. And now I'd really love to pick your brains on some of your personal experiences. So Ritesh, maybe walk us through an interesting experience with which you or any other HR leader might have had while managing digital transformation. Because a lot of people within your team might have a fear of job loss, or they might have a fear of whether automation is going to take my place, or just that there is more work, like you rightly mentioned, which is being added. So walk us through an interesting experience, and maybe you can share some light on some of your learnings personally.
Sure. So basically, as a HR professional, any HR professional sees digital transformation happening basically in three areas. Very first is, the way you used to monitor the attendance, right? So there were times when people used to come, there was a register, they will give their time in, time out, and then, basis that attendance will be taken care and leaves will be filed on a leave card, and that's how the salaries at the end of the month will get calculated and it will get paid. So those were the old systems, and still a lot of companies, a lot of offices continue having this system. In fact, there are regulations in some of the companies which say that you need to keep the attendance records as in the form of a register, right? So first thing which any HR professional would have experienced is in terms of how do you move this behavior from manual attendance to automatic attendance. And that's where there are a lot of companies which have products which can either use RFID or they can use the fingerprint sensors, and in these days they can also use your facial recognition techniques to monitor the attendance. So I think this is the first transformation which any HR professional would have gone through. I had seen some of these transformations happening during my factory stints, where we had kind of moved from manual attendance to automatic attendance. And like I said, it's important to give an impression that after a certain point in time, all attendance and salary generation will happen through the digital means. So while there has to be a time when both the manual and digital system should continue during the transition phase or the launch phase, but after a certain point in time, we need to make it clear to the team that the digital one is going to be the source of all the attendance. So this is the first example. Second example, in sales automation, lot of the pharma and FMCG companies are now introducing app-based ordering. So again, this is requires a behavior change. Previously there were times when salesmen used to go. There were no paper and pencil. Also, they used to just go ask for the product, deliver the product, and on a white paper they used to just calculate and take the money. After that, there are systems. There came systems where there was a register and there was invoicing that was happening, and on the invoice all the calculations will happen and the products will get delivered. And now in many of the advanced companies, there is a system when people take orders on the app, that orders go to the distributor on a real-time basis. Distributor prepares the stocks to be delivered at the back end, and the stocks get delivered the next day, or maybe in many cases on the same day with an invoice. And then those processes are being used to track the various input and output KPIs in terms of number of orders received, number of products sold, all those things. So this is again a major automation change, or rather major digitization which has happened in terms of order booking for many pharma and FMCG companies. Third thing is about the HR processes and HR systems themselves, right? So there was a time when any hiring or any process change or any performance management used to happen through interactions, and any record keeping was generally on used generally on the Excel or on the emails. But these days there are HR automation systems by many companies which can take care of end-to-end life cycle for any employee, right from recruitment till the separation of the employee. Everything happens by the systems. And then in many of these systems, it has moved from the HR orchestrating the system to manager self-service and employee self-service. So these are some of the big digital transformations which have happened in HR over the past few uh, years, and we see a lot of companies adopting these processes even now. So to summarize three things, first thing is about the entire piece around automatic attendance or the digital attendance, and that would again get connected to the leave processing happening online, salary processing happening online, salary slip generation, and all the compensation benefits things happening online versus happening on Excel sheet. Second thing is about the sales automation, which has really transformed the way salesmen take orders using a app-based technology. And the third one is about the HR processes themselves, wherein it has moved to self-service and the manager self-service and the employee self-service techniques. So these are the three things which are very common.
Wonderful, Ritesh. I think you've given a spectrum of opportunities for HR professionals to digitize themselves, and I think I would agree with a lot of what you've just mentioned, because we see a lot of issues coming in on a day-to-day basis with a number of some number of our clients that we potentially consult with. So I'll just build on that last question, and maybe I'll ask you to share one or two experiences which probably didn't go as you might have expected. I wouldn't use the term, it failed or anything, but maybe you had certain other expectations and it didn't quite match up to your expectation. And maybe some kind of a, afterthought as to why that might have happened.
Sure. So thank you so much for asking this. See, I think failure is an important milestone to learn anything, right? And any big change management that we introduce, anywhere, Failures are nothing but learning points. So yes, so in my professional journey also, I had had several of these learning points, and while it's very difficult to put or rather talk about all of them, but I can certainly speak about one of the aspect which was again about sales automation, right? And in sales automation, one of the things which we were trying to do was we wanted to automate the coaching methodology for the supervisors and the salesmen. So in a typical, order-based FMCG company, what happens is it's the role of the supervisor to coach the salesman on the job. So we wanted to automate it, and we wanted to kind of take real-time inputs from the supervisor using an app to coach the salesman. Now we had launched this in one of the markets after due diligence and after doing a lot of investments in providing handhelds to the supervisors, and there were a lot of IT infrastructure that the company had invested in. But what happened was, when we had launched this initiative, it didn't go as per our planning, right? And I would not term it as a failure, but I would say that, there are two ways in which any of these initiatives can pose a challenge. The very first thing is, it doesn't, the KPIs don't improve in the timeline that you talk about, right? And the first KPI for any digital transformation is digital adoption. So any new app or any new thing, first you want adoption, right? And that's where, sometimes when the adoption doesn't happen within the timelines that you have thought, it's a big watch out, right? And that's where I think in one of these examples, the adoption was a big challenge. Now the adoption was a big challenge because of a couple of reasons. Very first reason was, I think on the hindsight, I think we were doing too many transformations together. So we were having different, we were combining territories, we were segregating territories, we were combining product lines. We were doing a lot of changes at the back end in the overall GTM structure. And when those changes they are happening, expecting that the supervisors will have a very stable team or a set of people with whom he can work for the next 2 years, is something which is very difficult, because in any GTM transformation the team also changes because your product lines are changing, territories are changing, and all that. So on the hindsight, I think we were doing too many changes together, and that's where people were not able to actually see the names of their team members properly. And even if they wanted to use the system was not allowing them to actually do the coaching with the identified person. So there were design issues and there were too many changes happening. That was the first reason. And second reason is, of course, which I talked about, is about behavioral adoption, right? So even after a good 6 to 8 months of hard work, persistence, and follow-ups, we could see that only 25% of our target population adopted the system. And that was speaking a lot about the social pressure, or that was speaking a lot about the changes in behavior, right? If only 25% people are adopting after 8 months, then definitely it's not a, very successful transformation. And that's where some of these learnings had come. And I feel that couple of things. One, we need to take changes in a segregated manner. We cannot have all changes happening together. Second thing, we need to have very strong support and training system to ensure that the new changes, people are aware and they are able to adopt it easily. And third is, of course, we need to create the environment in which people can learn from each other. There is social learning happening. There is a social pressure also on everyone to adopt the system. Uh, Even the managers, they need to ask questions that, tell me how many coaching sessions did you did in the last month using the handheld, right? So all these things need to come together for any transformation that, if it needs to succeed. So that's where, that's what has been my experience. And I feel these are all learning points, because if you go through these experiences once, you come out as a more learned person and more wise person, given the fact that for any digital transformation there is no one size fits all, right? All digital transformations need to consider the culture of the organization, culture on the ground. They need to be agile and nimble enough to take feedback from the team. Proper support systems should be there. So these things definitely can make a lot of impact when we're driving digital transformation.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ritesh. And now on to the brighter side. Maybe a digital transformation initiative which has given you the most satisfaction.
Oh, great. So, for any HR professional, learning always remains very important. And if you see a lot of organizations, they realize that they need to keep their employees updated with the latest, learnings that's happening outside as well as inside the organization. And I am very close to this particular domain of learning and development because I've spent the last 4 years, learning myself about it and implementing new initiatives. I think in that one of the good initiatives which I feel very satisfied and proud is the fact that we change the way in which we train our salesmen across many territories. Right. So there were times when training used to happen only through classroom learning, and that was the old archaic way of training. It's definitely, my perspective is it's one of the most effective ways also if you have a good facilitator and good content, but it is one of the most expensive ways, and for a population which is geographically spread and speaks multiple languages, and they don't have a lot of time to take out from their market work to spend time in training. I think we did a great job in adopting digital way of learning. So what we did was, for any uh, KPIs that we wanted the team to drive, we created short micro learnings, which were video learnings. So we used to kind of shoot videos and then have some 2 to 3 minutes to 8 minutes kind of learning in those videos. And we created a recurrent system in which the supervisors show these learning videos to the salesman. And while the mode still remains as a classroom mode, but the learning doesn't get diluted because there is only one source of truth through those videos. And the greatest advantage of these videos are that you can use them regularly to upskill, reskill, as well as onboard new team members. So it gives me great satisfaction because we were able to launch this digital way of learning through video learnings across multiple markets. And definitely the fact that the attendance also got monitored, the feedback of the session also got monitored, and at the back end, we were also able to see the changes in KPIs that these trainings used to bring. So it became a very, very successful story for us. And like I said, this initiative of micro learning which we have now rolled out in multiple markets, and not only FMCG companies, but you can see many other companies adopting these micro learning techniques.
That's
I
great.
can tell you that there are examples like PVR in India, and there are many other examples who are adopting innovative learnings for the population which is spread across geographies.
Congratulations on that initiative. I think you're very right that platforms, micro learning platforms, are spreading, and in fact, I think it's becoming much more mainstream. It's going beyond just organizations, and there are startups which are trying to address certain specific niche through micro learnings. So I think very well done, and I think a valid experience. I think which some of the viewers can actually learn from. Ritesh, I'll just have one final question with you. For anyone who's new to digital transformation, for anyone who's just starting out, he's probably believes that he's late already into the game. But what is it that you would advise him or her to keep in mind before you know he gets into this difficult and arduous journey of going through this entire digital transformation process, in the process failing a number of times, getting his fingers burnt, and then trying to learn. So what is it, maybe the two or three key tips which someone like yourself can actually provide anyone who's just starting his digital transformation journey?
A great question. I think the first thing is that we need to be persistent, right? I think patience and persistence are two biggest uh, strengths which anyone can bring on the table when they are driving any digital transformation. There will be times when people are going to say this is not going to work, right? And there is always resistance to change, right? Even those changes which are good for us, we are quite resistant to it because it requires getting out of your comfort zone and um, freezing, unfreezing, and a lot of those learning behaviors need to change. So I think the very first thing is for anyone who wants to drive digital change, they need to be persistent as well as they need to be patient. If they display these two qualities, I think it can cut a lot of ice. Few other things which I mentioned beforehand. First thing is about connecting with the users regularly, right? No digital transformation can succeed if it doesn't incorporate the cultural aspect and the ways in which people work. And again, there is no one size fits all, right? A lot of digital transformation, they need language integration, they need cultural integration, they need simplicity as well as complexity depending on the markets they are being rolled out in. So connecting with the users and taking their feedback regularly and modifying the system is something which is very important. At least that gives an impression to the people that you are ready to listen and that you are ready to adopt to make things easier for them. Third thing is the fact that while one needs to be patient, one also needs to kill the monster when it is small, right? So whenever anyone is embarking on the digital transformation journey, they need to identify what can be the possible barriers and they need to remove those barriers as soon as possible. And this is where a lot of planning needs to happen. We need to put in resources not only just to design or just to launch the initiative. We need to have resources who are experts in troubleshooting any software or any hardware issues even after the product is launched. This particular period is called the hypercare period, right? And many of these hypercare periods, resources are being pulled out. Don't pull out resources during these hypercare periods. It's important that employees get a comfort that the hypercare period is there to help them enable the change. And finally, the fourth important thing is please define and focus on the input and the output KPIs. Lot of times, especially in lot of human behavior related initiatives, right, we loosely define what we want to achieve. And even if we define them, we don't measure them. So it's important that we define things which are measurable and we are able to track it and create a lot of focus on driving those input and output KPIs. If you set up these four behaviors, the very first being patient and persistent, second one taking feedback of the users regularly and adopting and modifying the system, third one killing the monster when it is small, and the final one focusing on both the input and the output KPIs. I think anyone can drive digital transformation easily.
Well, on that optimistic and positive note, I'd really take this opportunity to thank you, Ritesh, for all your time, effort. I think really it's a lot of practical insights from a decade-long plus career across multicultural geographies and different corporate settings. So I think uh, large learning, not just for myself as a digital transformation professional, but a lot of other people who would actually eventually watch this interview. So once again, on behalf of everyone here at Bootstrapping Digital Transformation, that's the name of the book. We thank you so much, and I promise to send you the first copy of the book as soon as it hits the markets. Thank you so much, Ritesh.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. It was, it was my privilege to share my thoughts on this topic. I wish you and your team all the very best for the book launch. I would love to have the first copy, and I would love to review it and share it with my friends. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Ritesh.